Hey summoners, and welcome back to another ProGuides video. My name is Kellen, and today I'll be going over 10 extremely underrated runes that Koreans are abusing. Whenever I get into a ranked game, I rarely see these runes being utilized, which is quite surprising because we've had them for such a long time. It appears that the majority of League players just never took the time to mess around with the less popular rune options and are missing out big time on some free wins. Also guys, today's question of the day is, if you had to choose one keystone rune to use on every single champion for the rest of Season 10, which one would you choose? My answer might have to be Fleet Footwork. I think the majority of champions will have no problem using this setup, and the movement speed and healing are always useful on most champions. Let us know your answers in the comment section down below. Also, before we get started, are you getting ganked? Constantly demolished? Well, don't worry because we've got you covered. ProGuides is the #1 proven way to quickly level up your League of Legends skills. Whether you're looking for tier lists, champion guides, coaching, or courses from your favorite pro players, ProGuides is where you'll find them. Even players like Nightblue, BunnyFuFu, BoxBox, and LocoDoco support ProGuides. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description down below and start improving right now. And with that stuff being said, let's jump into the video. Starting at number 10, we have NIMBUS Cloak from the Sorcery Tree, and for those who are unaware, NIMBUS Cloak was reworked at the start of the preseason to now grant a burst of movement speed whenever you use a summoner spell. The amount of movement speed you get depends on the cooldown of whichever summoner spell that you used, and it also allows you to pass through units for a few seconds. This effect is actually really strong, and it is used all the time by Korean challenger junglers, and they've been spamming this setup on literally every single champion. Whether it's Rek'Sai, Lee Sin, Elise, Jarvan, Gragas, Olaf, Nidalee, Qiyana, it doesn't really matter because it works on any jungler. Whenever you want to gank a lane, you just use your smite on the enemy champion or even a minion to just grant a huge amount of movement speed. Not only, of course, is it going to make your ganks a lot stronger, but it also helps you preserve your flash on champions that really rely on it, like Rek'Sai, Elise, and Gragas. If you main jungle and haven't tried it yet, then our analysts highly recommend that you do. Stop copying the Western secondary rune page with Inspiration secondary for boots and Cosmic Insight, and go down the Korean Nimbus route. Next up at number 9, we have Revitalize. Although Revitalize is a popular rune among healing supports in the bottom lane, it's often underutilized in the Western solo lanes. This is mainly due to laners opting to go Overgrowth, Bone Plating, Shield Bash, Demolish, or even Second Wind when they take Resolve secondary. However, the Koreans have shaken up the meta to start taking Revitalize on solo laners with shields like Diana, Camille, Aurelia, and Mordekaiser. One of the main reasons why Revitalize and Overgrowth is so different is because of the playmaking potential. A lot of the times your opponents will be expecting you to shield or heal a specific amount when they're going all in. However, if you have Revitalize, it can screw up their calculations. I've often seen challenger players fail tower dives simply because of this fact. On top of that, if you think about it, a lot of top laners in the game have some sort of healing built into their kit, or they might even have some sort of shielding as well, so the rune choice for Revitalize makes it all that much better. So the next time you opt to go Resolve, try out Revitalize instead of Overgrowth, because you might actually prefer it. For number 8, we have Unsealed Spellbook in the Inspiration Tree. Every single patch, our analysts look through all of the data from major regions and compare stats with one another. However, one common trend that we've noticed from the Korean server is their love of Unsealed Spellbook. They'll usually take this rune on solo laners like Ornn, Vladimir, Orianna, Twisted Fate, Syndra, and Kennen, but the thing is, it practically works on everybody. What this rune does is it allows you to occasionally swap out your summoner spells for other sums. The reason why this is pretty valuable is because it allows you to better adapt to the game and gives you an extra layer of flexibility. Whenever you play against a Sejuani jungle, you can swap to Cleanse to avoid being locked down by your ultimate. When you're laning against somebody like Zed, you can swap to Exhaust or Barrier and prevent him from doing lethal damage. In addition to that, taking Spellbook also gives you the advantage of taking Inspiration as your primary rune page, and this page is super good as a primary. You get a lot of value from going Inspiration. You get runes like Free Boots, Biscuits, Cosmic Insight all at the same time. So make sure you give this a try, and even the best players in the world like Dopa go Unsealed Spellbook almost every game, so don't miss out. Next up at number 7, we have Last Stand from the Precision Tree. Whenever you see a jungler who likes to take Conqueror, like Lee Sin, Jarvan, or Rek'Sai, you'll notice that a lot of the time in the West, they always go coup de grace in the bottom row of Precision. However, if you take a look at Korean Challenger right now, they heavily prefer Last Stand over Coup. And even champions like Lee Sin, who do have some sort of damage amplifier based off their opponent's missing HP, A lot of the Koreans now are opting for Last Stand due to the pure value of this rune. Whenever your opponent deals damage to you, you're essentially getting stronger and stronger from a damage output perspective, and this can be really valuable when it comes to team fighting, tower diving, or even in a small skirmish because you can afford to take a lot more damage. On top of that, junglers usually go for an item route which builds a mix of damage and tankiness, and this means that they're a lot safer when they're at 30% HP because it'll still be like 1000 health. Alright, next up at number 6, we have a brand new rune which is OMNISTONE. And to be completely honest, on its release, OMNISTONE was probably the worst keystone I've ever seen. However, when the past few weeks came around, it's received buff after buff, and it's actually kind of good now. Koreans have been using it compared to most other regions, and it's become their mainstream staple rune for champions like Ezreal and Jace. You can compare this rune to Unsealed Spellbook in the sense that it gives you an added layer of flexibility and adaptability, and although this rune is mostly random, Riot Games finally implemented a bias system to OMNISTONE, which heavily favors you to roll specific keystones based on whatever scenario that you're in. For example, if your opponent is lower health, then you're heavily favored to roll Dark Harvest, which is obviously very helpful. If you're against champions with a high amount of HP, then you're likely more instead to roll Conqueror. The list of biases goes on and on, but the point is this rune isn't as random as it appears, and it actually has some decent reliability now. At number 5, we have Ghost PORO from the Domination Tree. Whenever you see somebody take the Domination Tree as a primary, you'll notice they almost always go for Eyeball Collection and maybe sometimes Zombie Ward. However, Koreans understand the true value of the underutilized Ghost PORO rune and just how good it really is. It states, whenever your wards expire, they leave behind a Ghost PORO which grants vision over a 450 unit area for 60 seconds. You'll also receive 1.2 AD or 2 AP for every Ghost PORO spawned, and when it reaches 10 stacks, you'll gain an additional 6 AD or 10 AP. This effect is really valued when you're playing a losing or even matchup and you just want to place defensive wards in your jungle. It's also the most consistent rune out there from the other two in the third row because you'll know exactly when you're going to hit the max stacks. In addition to that, most players have no idea how Ghost PORO works, thanks to how uncommon it is. This results in Ghost POROs being unspotted or even spotted stealth units that people just don't clear. Since champions like Twitch and Evelynn are so used to just walking past wards, they'll usually just walk past the Ghost PORO and assume they can't be spotted. However, this isn't the case, and Ghost PORO will be scared away by stealth units, so be wary if it runs away for no reason. At number 4, we have Relentless Hunter in the Domination Tree. Now I know what you're thinking, most junglers already opt to take Relentless Hunter in their domination page, so why are you saying it's exclusive to Koreans? Well, it's actually because Koreans also take it on their solo laners as well as junglers. Champions who often opt for Ravenous Hunter in the western servers like Jace, Aatrox, Ryze, and Akali are now being seen taking Relentless Hunter in Korea. This is because rotations are extremely important in Korean solo queue and most players will understand how to punish teleport downtimes. This results in top laners almost never teleporting back to lane and instead just walking there with the bonus movement speed from Relentless Hunter. On top of that, they also use this movement speed to rotate towards their jungler or make ganks in the mid lane. Teleport is a summoner spell that's exclusively for those bot lane skirmishes or dragon fights. Alright, coming in at number 3, we have Font of Life from the Resolve Tree. When you take a look at the second row of the Resolve Tree, you will notice that Shield Bash and Demolish really heavily overshadow Font of Life. However, Font of Life is one of the most underrated runes in the game, and it's game-changing in those skirmishes and team fights. Whenever you play a champion with a ton of CC like Thresh, Blitzcrank, or Leona, I want you to do me a favor and give it a try. I see way too many players tunneling on Demolish because they want that juicy turret plate gold. However, the thing that they fail to realize is that Demolish will be utterly useless unless you win your lane first. Taking Font of Life will help you win in every possible way because it's always useful. CCing an enemy champion marks them for 4 seconds and allows allied basic attacks to heal them for 5 plus 1% of your max health over 1.75 seconds. But the way that this works is that it'll restore 40% of the total heal on hit, then 15% after 0.1 seconds, and then 15% after 0.55 seconds, occurring 3 times. Seriously, give it a try. It's one of my favorite runes for support, and I highly recommend it to anyone. And by the way, if you play Ivern, this is what you should take. Coming in at number 2, we have Unflinching from the Resolve Tree. Once again, we have another rune that is very overshadowed by Overgrowth in the bottom row as well as Revitalize. However, if you're up against lanes with heavy CC, then Unflinching will be one of the most valuable runes in the game. It states that you gain 10% tenacity for each summoner spell on cooldown, up to 20%. On top of that, you gain 15% extra tenacity and slow resistance for 10 seconds after you cast a summoner spell. This effect does not stack, but it will refresh the timer on subsequent spell usage. The reason why this rune is so valuable is because it lets you walk away from CC after you engage. If you play a champion that doesn't have a way to get out after you get CC'd, then this is really valuable. Support picks like Tahm Kench, Leona, Nautilus, and Galio can utilize this rune very effectively into the right matchups. Before we get into number 1, we do want to have one honorable mention, which is Legend Tenacity. We're putting this as an honorable mention because it does appear more often than other runes on this list, but it's really OP. It's especially OP on bruiser type champions because it gives you a free Merc Treads worth of tenacity, so you can go Ninja Tabbies plus Merc Treads essentially by taking this rune. And lastly, at number 1, we have the combination of Overheal with Bloodline from the Precision Tree. Damwon Gaming's top laner known as Nuguri is known to take Bloodline combined with Overheal on champions like Camille. He usually starts a Cole or a Doran's Blade for the extra sustain and hard pressures his opponent at level 1. Since there are so few champions who can actually match Camille's level 1 aggression, Nuguri is usually able to get the full Overheal stacks and gain lane priority immediately. And since his lane is naturally going to push, it means that he can hit level 2 first and put a point into his E for a quick all-in. Since you have the shield from Camille's passive combined with Overheal, you'll pretty much be taking 0 damage while dealing a ton of damage to your opponent. Make sure you try this out in the top lane. It even works on champions like Riven, Fiora, and Aurelia. And if you want to be extra cheeky, then I recommend actually stacking Doran's Blades and going for that 30% lifesteal Riven, Fiora, or Aurelia, because it's kind of crazy once you get Ravenous Hydra, Bloodline, all your Dorans, and you have Overheal. Anyway, that's going to be it for our 10 underrated runes that the Koreans abuse. If you enjoyed watching this video, please hit that like, comment, and subscribe button to be notified of our next video. Also, make sure you check out ProGuides.com if you want to see huge improvements in your rank. That's all for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the Rift.